Welcome to My Creative Corner 3, a podcast about quilting, crafting, creativity, and life in a northern town. You'll find show notes at mycreativecorner3.wordpress.com. You can leave a comment, you can sign up for my patron site, you can purchase a virtual cup of coffee, or even sign up for the newsletter. Come back weekly and we'll chat. My name is Vicki, and welcome to the podcast. Hello, everyone. This is the week of July 10th, and I had to say, the heat wave continues. It's been weeks of it. This has been a really hot summer. I was not expecting it to be hot. I always wish and hope and dream for sunshine and warmer weather, but not hot weather. Beginning to feel like I'm claustrophobic and cabin fever locked up in this house so much. But yeah, the gardening has been put on pause, waiting for it to cool down, and also waiting for the flowers to quit their flowering parts and the bees will have food. And then I'm going to thin down the beds that have quadrupled in size over the last year or so and make it more of the pockets of flowers, cottage style plantings, and the lower level fairy garden. The dirt will be moved, but yeah, it's all on hold right now. I will say that the work on the property line has finished with all of the workmen on the back property line. We enjoyed working with the third party that was hired to remove the trees that were damaged, when the first go around that they took trees out, damaged the root system on a couple of trees that were left. So we had that taken care of. And we also have some dead cedar trees on a different property line. And we're going to have those removed before the snow flies. He's working and going to work us in. We've had a lot of work done because we just needed to invest in this house or it was going to fall down around our ears. And we had the ability to do that. And, we're not going anywhere, so we're saving a little bit of money on travel. So the gardening project is just in the heat of summer on hold, and then more activity will happen. We haven't been doing much outside the house. My husband goes to work and work outside all day, driving truck and delivering. So he's very hot and tired at the end of the night. But we have gone on a couple of nature rides. On the 4th of July weekend, we took a picnic lunch in the truck, and we wound up going evening. So it was dinner, and it was our favorite cheese crackers and sausages. And we had some little chips and sweet treats, but the deer flies were so bad that we stayed in the truck, parked on a very remote lake, watching a storm brew and go over the lake, as well as the sunset, and it had rainbows. So it was a very pleasant, beautiful evening. We also went out and saw that full moon. It was so red, and I think it was from the sand of that Saharan desert plume, sand plume that was in the atmosphere. I had a hard time taking pictures, but it was beautiful to watch, and it was what they call a preambular eclipse. It was very faint for us to see that, but the moon was very, very vivid. So I enjoyed getting out, trying to take some pictures. Doing the photo a day challenge on Instagram has rejuvenated some of my creativity, having a lot of fun with that. And then I decided if enough weren't enough with the Dear Jane, and I put it on pause for a little bit. Angie of Gnome Angel, she started doing the 100 days, 100 blocks sew along, and I brought out my kinship project, and I only did about 10 last year, and so we are on day 10, and I've sewn a few more blocks, and my plan is, it says 100 blocks, is instead of making it queen size to a sampler, and it's got rectangles and squares, I think I'm going to divide it 50 blocks and 50 blocks to make twin size beds for my twin granddaughters. And I'm going to keep it in the scrap bin of the color palette, though, of pinks and teals and whites, possibly with a little bit of other colors just to break it up. But those are the main colors, and they really seem to like that. It's not going to be like truly rainbow because I don't think I have enough scraps for that of the same value, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So I have been working on that. I have been long arming every day. All of a sudden, we've been in the lockdown in Michigan until last month, and our region opened up for haircuts and gyms. And my husband went to the gym once and got sick. Hey, go figure. I feel bad for the guy, but he doesn't have a lung infection. It's just he went to the gym and got sick, and I told him, maybe you shouldn't be going to the gym. So he hasn't gone back. And I did go get my hair cut. We were all masked up and taking every precaution. And I had my hair cut, not in a pixie, but it's pretty short. It was so hot. It felt good to lose all that hair. So, yeah, we've been trying to find the balance. Are you having trouble with that? I mean, we're still in a lockdown. And so quilters have been dropping off lots of quilts. I've been wearing masks. They've been wearing masks. We meet in the driveway. Some people will drop off on the porch. I mean, just kind of depending on the situation. But navigating this is awkward. Even at work, it's awkward. I'm still working from home, but then there's some thought of going back into the office and seeing people, our clients, and the other part of our agency, they're like, no, we're still really tightly locked down because the cases are rising again. I'm trying to decide what is the best thing for today. So we're socially distancing. Doesn't really change our life a whole lot, to be honest, except for traveling to see our family. And that still hasn't happened yet, but we're keeping up on the phone, doing video calls and all that kind of stuff. But, even if you were to go out, there's really nothing to do. Nothing. We go look at nature, and I do Rock Hound, and we look for unique photos and reliving a lot of good memories of all the places that we've been and traveled to around northern Michigan. But there's no festivals, there's no concerts, there's no anything like that. The movie theaters opened up kinda, and I'm not real excited about that, but our local theater is showing like old dollar films, like Harry Potter and things that have been out for a long time. I can watch that at home. I'm not going to go risk getting sick by sitting in a movie theater with sick people watching a movie I've already seen 100 times. So that's interesting, is that I have to go back to entertainment. Oh boy. I entertain myself a lot, but I'm like doing everything 2 and 3 times. I've started a couple projects, dusted off, the UFO of kinship, and I finished a trip around the world working on Dear Jane. So I started this week deciding rather than starting another project, because I still have a couple of other things going on. My hexagons and my knitted cowl that's turned into an infinity scarf. Decided to go through some more of the stash that I inherited. It's becoming less painful of going through my best quilting friend's stash. And you remember, her stash also contained all of the things of her best quilting friend who died before her. So it's like 2 people's worth of lifetime of fabric. But I've consolidated it down to several totes, given quite a bit away. I've sorted some out to give to people, and I've used quite a bit. So it's really looking more manageable than it did. But what was so touching today is I knew that this bag that I was going through recently was not my best friend, but her best friend's bag. It just carried fabric that was of the flavor of her friend. And as I got to the bottom, I found a photo album of a retreat that both of them went on. And there were pictures of this particular fabric, and part of the quilt is done, and I'm going to leave it. It's a medallion quilt. So the center is done with a row, and I'm going to add a couple more rows with strips with the fabric that went with it. But I was like, oh, this is so sweet that I have the photo album of quilts, mostly quilts, and a couple pictures of these best quilty friends. I mean, they went everywhere. They went on countrywide shop hops through our nation. They went to quilt shows. They went to Paducah many times. I think they may have even went to Houston. But anyway, there's just lots and lots of memories in that. And I was able to go through it and touch it and see their photos and not cry. I was happy. So that was fantastic. And I'm choking up now thinking about it. But it was really great because I've been blessed with this gift. And I honestly only will need to fill in the gaps here and there with a few fabric pieces. And I will only need to buy batting, quite honestly. I've got thread. I've got projects. One is a whole applique Christmas quilt that's fused but needs to be appliqued. I'm not very good at applique, so I'm going to practice that a lot more before I tackle that. And I'm going to finish that quilt and keep it for myself for the holidays. You know, I can't give all away my quilt babies. You know, I just can't give them all away. Some of them I do keep, and I keep quite a bit for, I don't know. I have this thought that someday I'm going to take the show on the road and do trunk shows. I've done a few. Of course, with the pandemic, I canceled the couple and rescheduling for next year. But I don't know. Maybe that gathering and traveling and doing guild lectures and stuff is over with the pandemic. We'll see. We'll see what next year brings. Life isn't going to always be like it is this simple summer, is it? So yeah, I'm having to go back into the recesses of my brain of remembering what it was like to entertain yourself when there's nowhere to go and there's not a whole lot of happening. You know, when we were younger, it was because we couldn't afford it. And now it's just everything's closed. The only saving grace in all of this is we have the internet and I can watch all kinds of stuff. And it's, some of it's stupid on YouTube, but most of it is not like the terrible television I used to watch when I was a kid. But yeah, we found a lot of shows. I've watched NASCAR again because, you know, I'm missing sports terribly. And I'm not sure if there's going to be any football in the fall. We'll see how that goes. It'll probably be, maybe they're going to televise games without people in the stadium. I don't know. But that's just really going to be sad. But I'm not going to any football games this fall. At least that's my current feeling on it. So yeah, NASCAR is kind of fun. You can stitch and check in. We go to races usually a few times this summer in the state. So, but I'm not as big into it as some fans. But it's a sport to watch. It's better than watching cornhole on ESPN. Yes, they have cornhole championships. Did you know that? I about keeled over when I saw that. I'm like, professional cornhole games? This is a world championship. My husband goes, yeah, this is professional cornhole. I'm the one that stopped on it when we were scanning by because I was fascinated. I've never played cornhole, and it definitely looks like a drinking game that went pro. Very, very interesting. It's just a beanbag toss game with, you know, two beanbag boards, you know, on either side of the field, and then I don't know if it's partners or singles or what, but everybody takes turns. There's two teams, and people who get the most beanbags in the hole. It's also kind of like skee ball, you know, where there's rings. But I didn't get the scoring, so I'd have to watch a lot more cornhole to get it figured out. Oh my gosh. You know you're bored when you've watched cornhole championships on ESPN. Yeah, I know. It's sad, isn't it? You can only do so much sewing, and my fingers have been bothering me. I think I got a cellulitis in my dominant hand, and so it's not been easy to do hand stitching or knitting, and cutting with the rotary cutter has been difficult. I've been cutting some things out with the Cricut. Oh yeah, I just go, I have all this time, and of course now my body says, yeah, well, I'm rebelling against you. You just bunch of long arm for a while. So that's where I'm spending a good part of my creative time. So what have you been doing to alleviate some of this? You know, I haven't hit the wall so much until the end of June, July, where I feel like I'm getting the pandemic, oppressive feelings of like, well, how long is this going to last? It's going to last for a lot longer than I want it to. I'm getting bored. I'm missing seeing people in person. I really miss going out to eat, but that is not on the docket now. We have done a few takeout meals, and I miss traveling a little bit. I miss a couple of the Highland games that I like to go to during the season. Of course, they've all been canceled this year. We'll see what next year brings. And I've just decided to take it back to a simple summer of plants and gardens. I'm trying not to buy too many house plants because I don't have anywhere else to put them. I have bought a few things, and I told you about the Tula pink fabric, so I'm not going to order a whole lot more, but I just love that line so much. I got a couple of the key fabrics and a layer cake. But what I have discovered is the shopping on Etsy. Oh, I know. A couple weeks ago, remember I was telling you I found internet shopping? Well, my daughter-in-law is Renee, and she has an Etsy shop called With Mind and Heart. And she did the stress and anxiety workbooks, and she has recently put on a whole collection of her artwork on stickers, and they are phenomenal. They're like watercolors. They're cut out individually. You can buy them as individual stickers depending on the size. And I have bought a bunch. In fact, I bought every single one of the stickers except for maybe one or two. But I've bought them all. Oh my gosh, they are great for the art journal that I'm working on. I have put them on pages as inspiring jumping off points. I've done some doodles around them. I've used it as part of a collage. They are fantastic for the art journal. When I look at a completely blank page, it's sometimes hard to think about what it is you want to do. But using that sticker system, put one of those beautiful, they're not high shine glossy stickers either. They have a matte finish. I'm thinking they'd be great to embellish. They'd be great. I'd put one sticker down. It was a hanging basket with plants in it. And I put her sticker that was on the envelope. I was able to recycle it that said With Mind and Heart. And then I made it look like a minimalist room. And then in the next layout, I cut up the beautiful presentation envelope that she did and made a pocket with the brown paper bag type of envelope she used. And I slid the thank you card into it so you can slide it in and out. So these kinds of things are so much fun for me. Upcycling, doing a combo art journal, junk journal, collages. This has been very helpful for when I get bored with all of the sameness, feeling like I just don't know what to do. I can't come up with one more new thing or one more quilt to start or anything like that. So the journaling and the stickers have been great. So look for the Etsy shop With Mind and Heart. Now, when I go on Etsy, you have to mash all the words together with no spaces to go directly to her shop. You can also find her on Instagram, and she has a link to her Etsy shop in her bio. So not only am I very, very excited about the stickers and I'm using them, but she is a very special person to me, and it would be great if you guys took a look at her stuff and supported her. It's a small business, and she does a fantastic job. So that brings me to what's coming up in the next week. Well, I figured the end of July, we all need something to do. So I'm doing a sew along on the My Creative Corner 3 Facebook group. Also doing it on Instagram with a hashtag, and I will put that in the description below so that I don't mispronounce it. So Angel of Halo Inspirations and I are going to do a, drum roll please, we're going to do a 4 or 5 week, I can't remember now, sew along on making a bookshelf quilt. And I have 2 foundation paper pieced blocks that are small that you can put on the bookshelf. You can make this as personalized as you want. It's so much fun to make because there's a tiny bit of improv don't be scared if you want to join us. You don't have to be all about improv, but it's all about lining up your books on the shelf. You could embroider them. You could use salvage edges for personalizing your edges of the books. You can stack them up. You can stack them sideways. You could make this a wall hanging size, twin size. I'm personally making a wall hanging. It's going to be about 24 inches of the books on the shelf, three rows of books. The bookcase is going to be the outer border. I haven't figured out what fabric I'm going to use for the bookcase and the shelves yet. But I decided this time I'm using white as the backdrop of the bookshelf. I used black in the last 2 bookshelf quilts that I've made. And what's super fun is I've made it more minimalist the first 2 times. So this time I'm adding a teacup and a plant. I gave it away for the foundation paper piece. Little things to put on your shelf. Or you may have an orphan block that's the right size. Or you may have your own ideas on what you want to put on your bookshelf. In fact, what's so fun about this is you can use wild and crazy fabric. You can use outdated fabric for your books. You can use those ugly fabrics that you're like, man, I don't know why I even bought this, but they make great strips for the books on the bookshelf. If you haven't seen a bookshelf quilt, you can go to my blog and see the newsletter. I put a copy of that. If you didn't get your newsletter, I put it on the blog. And I have a Pinterest board link there, which has a couple of my quilts, as well as lots of ideas on making a bookshelf quilt. And I would say is, start with a relatively small size, and then as you go, if you want to make it bigger, you can, or if you want to make it more embellished, you can. There is even a bookshelf quilt out there for a while, and I see its pictures are still out there, but I'm not sure if the fandom has taken down the sew along, but it was a Harry Potter quilt that was a bookshelf, and it had like the sorting hat and a lot of things, an owl related to Harry Potter on the shelves. And so they made the books look like you were a student at Hogwarts. And yeah, very, very cool. You can do whatever you want with this. That's what's so much fun about the quilt. So that will start next week. And I'm going to do a Facebook Live on Tuesday of next week. And I believe, let me look at the calendar for that date, but it's going to be at 6 o'clock. And we're going to have Angel and I'm going to originate the Facebook from My Creative Corner 3. And I think it probably will also be on my Vicki Holloway Facebook page. But don't worry, I'm going to save the video so you can watch it at any time. And if it turns out to be decent quality, I'll probably also put it on YouTube. So that would be July 14th. At 6 o'clock, we'll do the kickoff, kind of have video of what I just told you and try to show you a couple of things. And if I get my life in order, I will have a proper plant block done, and I'll do a better teacup than my test block. You didn't use a color that will show up on the camera. And I made a mistake in it, but that's between you and me. I'm so excited because I think it'll be fun to do a sew along where people are actually sewing along with me, and we can have conversation on both my group page or Angel. Now, the great thing about Angel is that she does this as her business and she has more time. So she's going to do her weekly Facebook Lives, and I think she may even have a couple of other opportunities to join her to do some education. This is all free, and it's going to be all in the spirit of let's have fun and break it up, this summer boredom. And maybe if you're like me, you need a little excitement for quilting with other people, even if it's virtually. So join us for that if that sounds like fun to you. It's really a fun quilt. It really, really is. And then in the future, in the fall, I plan on doing an orphan block quilt. I'm thinking the end of September to start that sew along. So that's the big exciting thing, is the bookshelf quilt is coming up. Been working on it, but I'm literally going to be sewing most of it with you. I will have a couple of things done prior, but it's really going to be shaping up over the time with you as we sew. And that's why I'm not making it queen sized, right? So you have the most wonderful week. And don't forget, join our Facebook groups. Mine is My Creative Corner 3. You can also sign up for the newsletter. I'm not doing it bi-weekly. I might even not do it monthly. But when exciting things happen, I'll send a newsletter out. You could also support the podcast by joining my patron site. I thank all of the patrons. July's patron extra content or pattern or whatever I think of hasn't happened yet, but hopefully I will do that in the next week or two. I'll come up with a really brilliant idea for my wonderful, wonderful patrons. I also can be found on Instagram and YouTube, and I'm also really, really excited about going through my treasure trove of inherited fabrics from my friend and sorting them. I'm storing them in totes in pulling by project, but I'd like to hear about your ideas on what you've done when you've found yourself in a situation where you have lots of fabric. Maybe you've inherited a friend's fabric. Maybe you have some ideas on how to store the fabric, or ideas on how to go through some of this stuff because it's so sentimental. And like finding that photo album or finding handwritten notes. It's really hard for me to part with some things that truly don't need to be saved, but I'm not throwing away any fabric. It's just old tools or things that she has newer, updated versions of when the old is broken. It's still hard to get rid of. So I'm looking for any advice on going through sentimental stuff, because that's kind of where I am also in sorting of my house. Just keeping up with my routines and house cleaning and not doing a whole lot of heavy duty stuff right now, because I'm pretty happy with where we're at after the big dumpster experience in the spring. And then I'm looking at what's left is super sentimental stuff in my closets and in storage. So yeah, those are hard. And I'm finding it in my quilting stuff. It's just as hard, even though the sentiment isn't from all of my memories, but it's the memory of my friend. So I would love to hear how you're getting along with sorting your sentimentals. And I really think 90% of it is I have to be ready to do it. My mind has to be at a point where I can do it. So anyway, you have a fantastic week. I'd love to hear what you're doing during your summer, during this pandemic. Are you as locked down as we are here? Are you getting out? Are you choosing to stay home? I'd like to hear how you're dealing with it. So one last little story before I go is I'm having trouble driving. I have hardly driven my car in months. And so I've been getting out in the neighborhood usually about once a week. But yesterday I decided to cross past where all the tourists go on the freeway interchange to get myself a iced coffee because I've never had one and it's been so hot. Yeah, it didn't go well. I hit the curb. I couldn't navigate with all the traffic. It was 5 lanes of traffic wall to wall. It's a summer traffic jam. And I quickly skedaddled back home and decided I'm going to stay in my little neighborhood. And today I'm going to force myself to drive to the post office, which is away from the tourist center and in my neighborhood. So, yeah, the struggle is real some days. I need to get out more and drive. I'm wondering if any of you are having some of the similar problems. So anyway, re-engaging is not going to be easy. It's going to be way harder than I ever thought it would be. So anyway, take care, be safe, and quilt on, everyone.